is Gretchen Taylor. I'm with the Neighborhood Safety Alliance of Seattle, and our mission is to oversee, overlook, and be the voice for safety and health in neighborhoods throughout the city of Seattle. So to that end, we hear a lot of concerns coming from neighborhoods about what's going on. The umbrella of homelessness can be extremely confusing. It's like a moving target in the sense that the homeless umbrella has people who need a hand up and some that are looking for a hand out. So I guess that's a distinction that is always kind of up for what are we doing here. But our own mayor, Mayor Murray, has said that 80% of those living on the streets are addicted, some addiction of some kind. And so my question is, kind of pursuant to what you were saying, we clean up things and then they move back. Many people are resistant to moving in because they don't want the rules and restrictions, because they want a lifestyle, and the choice basically has been the lifestyle on the street. And if it's 80% is correct, and those aren't my numbers, those are the mayor's, how are we going to do housing and treatment? Do they work together? Is it a separate entity? Is that being considered? In other words, how do we get in front of this and create an opportunity for people to get well and stop suffering, and therefore make healthier choices that lead to permanent or whatever the housing might be?
Barb.
You raise a big issue, which is how do you effectively bring together folks who have are currently using substances and get them into housing. And what we have been able to show across the country is that what we used to believe was that before people could be housed was they needed to be clean and sober, and then at the end of the treatment you were given access to an apartment kind of as a graduation gift. And what we were able to prove everywhere across the country is that model doesn't actually work. And what does work, though, is an offer of permanent supportive housing that's grounded in Housing First principles, which uses harm reduction, brings folks inside to their own apartment with a lot of services and engagement. And what we've been able to see is that under the old kind of treatment first, housing second, if you got to 45% or even 50% success rate of graduating from treatment into housing, that the fail rate was pretty high in the housing. So very expensive, didn't get a lot of great results. But under the Housing First permanent supportive housing, what we see consistently across the country is retention rates of 85 to 95% for high quality permanent supportive housing. And this can be at a single site, such as the 1811 project that DSA really pioneered this in, but it can also be on a scattered site basis so that they're in their own apartment and the services are mobile and coming to them. So that model is extremely effective across the country. It's very cost efficient because those individuals that you're talking about often are really expensive to a community, whether it's because there's police interaction or it's because they're using the emergency rooms or they're in and out of psychiatric hospitals or treatment. So it's also a model, though, that when you do this, you stop homelessness and it makes great sense. And so you've proven that works here. The challenge is you're not at the scale that is needed to solve all of the particular issues that you're addressing. I want to say that in the time that I've worked on homelessness and have had many, many conversations with folks who are living outside, is in every place, many people who are outside are going to reject an offer of emergency shelter because it comes with a lot of restrictions and it doesn't really meet their needs. They still feel unsafe and those pieces. But when we look at whether they would take an offer of housing, the offer of housing, like a permanent supportive housing, is going to be accepted 3/4 to 90% of the time. Because often the reason they say no is because what we're offering them makes no sense, and it makes more sense to continue to be in the tent because it gives them what they believe is greater security. So there is a solution. You've pioneered the work here. It's just simply not at the scale that it needs to be.
Thank you.
Dave, can I just add to that for a second? I think that one of the things that I heard a couple of comments around sort of nonprofits, trying to sort of make money off of this problem. I just want to nip that. I think that's a really unfortunate characterization of people that are working on this issue and really trying to solve this issue and really trying to house as many people as we can. And I think one of the challenges we have in getting to that approach of having as many opportunities for people to get indoors as possible, and it's really tied to the questions we're getting about the person that's sleeping in Belltown in a tent, is that we have a really hard time citing these programs. If we want to lower barriers to programs, if we want to say this program is going to be housing first, people are going to be able to come in here and we're working on reducing the harm they're doing to themselves and their substance use, the neighborhood comes unglued. And if we can't place those programs in the community, then we can't make progress on the person that's living in a tent in Belltown. I just think sometimes we're not making that connection, and to me it's really clear, and I hope that made sense and it's clear to others.
But we're making progress on that. I've been out there in the community in 3 very tough setting up encampments, the very thing I don't want to do. And I find that audiences understands these issues. I tell you, Barbara, you're a household word in Seattle. People get it, and they're less resistant. What they want is decent housing for people. And the problem is the cost of it and the land. Sorry, it's expensive.